What's up, folks? My name is Roke and I'm here today to bring you a new video about an upcoming survival sandbox called Rend. Rend is an action RPG survival sandbox that pits three different factions against each other constantly in the heat of war, and here's 10 reasons why you should be excited for a game like this. Number 1. It's a three-faction war survival sandbox. The content and utter destruction of Rend takes place across three different unique factions in the form of 20v20v20. Starting her off is the first one, the sly and cunning faction of Conclave,
North is ours.
the proud and brutal faction of the Order, and the mystical and intelligent faction of the Revenant.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Each faction has access to 4 different classes including Assassin, Mystic, Survivalist, and Soldier, in addition to several life roles such as Harvesting and Gathering, Crafting, and much more. Every faction will be vying for power in this non-stop action sandbox, and by fighting for your allied faction and completely wiping your enemies off the map, you gain meta progression points that can be used towards rewards like convenience items, cosmetics, and even plan features like talent tree expansions for your faction. Next up is number 2 with the fact that pre-alpha and early access are both planned for the spring. Now, with spring being just around the corner, starting sometime on March 20th and ending sometime in June, it's no surprise that players have reason to be excited about this game coming to us so quickly, especially with the lack of decent sandbox games that have been coming out for the past few years, and survival games on top of that. Now Rend shows up to show true promise, and hopefully this game will turn out to be as good as we think it will. And Rend actually shares a few similarities with games that we've already been anticipating, like Camelot Unchained and Crowfall. And even though it's not an MMO, like these games, it has a sort of realm v realm v realm, but in the form of 20-man faction v faction v faction. If this game delivers, it may very well be the first of these games to bring this concept to life. And that concept is non-stop war in a sandbox. Make sure you sign up on their website for the pre-alpha to try your hand at finding out just what kind of game this is going to be. And I'll provide a link in the description for their website. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to stop on over there and check out their site. They have some really cool stuff on there already. Number 3. Next up is the weekly based vulnerability to spark PvP and PvE engagements, which is also known as the Reckoning. While you're busy fighting an all-out war in Rend, just remember one thing. There is definitely one thing you want to keep your mind on while you're having fun over there, and that's the Reckoning. The Reckoning is a weekly event where the shields on your base, which is fully constructed by your faction, come down and scores upon scores of monsters try to swarm in and destroy it. First off, if your normal reaction to this is something like this,
Oh my God!
then you are completely sane. Probably my most favorite feature about the game. The thing that makes this game unique is the fact that once that reckoning starts and your shields go down, it's not just the players you gotta worry about anymore. It's that horde of monsters that's gonna be coming over to your base. Now, if you manage to take down these monsters, your shields are still going to be down for a couple of hours, which gives any other faction plenty of time to plan an attack against your base. This is also something to keep in mind when you're coordinating for defense against the horde. Now, something I wanted to include, because there has been some confusion regarding the Reckoning, is just because the Reckoning happens does not mean that it's a guarantee that all 3 factions are going to go down. The game's not actually over until either 2 factions go down and one stands as the victor, or all 3 factions go down, which is very likely when you're dealing with a horde of monsters. But this doesn't mean games will last only a week, however. They've stated that games could go on for months, which if you've tried any Realm v Realm games like Guild Wars 2 or Elder Scrolls Online, you know that it's completely possible. Even if you haven't, though, you could still see the sense in it. The shields only come down once a week at a designated time. That gives everybody a chance to prepare for the oncoming attack. That means that there could be a lot of stalemates in fights and cause people to have to wait till the next week to try and plan another attack. And keep in mind there will always be a countdown to when the reckoning begins. It'll show even before you connect to the server, and there's a planned in-game feature to show when the reckoning will begin. This will allow you the chance to choose wisely when it comes to the servers and make sure that your schedule fits with what their reckoning time is going to be. Next up, with number 4, we got the talent tree and skill system. So during your travels in Rend, you will find that you're able to specialize into 4 different classes like I listed earlier: Mystic, Assassin, Soldier, and Survivalist. I recently discovered that we'll be able to choose from 2 of these classes, one being the primary and the other being the secondary, which means that you will not be limited to just one class. And on top of that, you will also be able to spec into the skill trees, which include things like harvesting, crafting, weaponry, hunting, magic, armory, exploring unforgiving areas of the game, and more, which overall will make the players feel like they have more freedom in terms of gameplay and create a unique experience for every single person in the faction, because with only 20 people in your faction, every single one of you will matter. Next up at number 5. This game is being developed by ex-Blizzard developers. These guys have amazing stories, but they've worked on notoriously famous games like World of Warcraft, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, WildStar, Wasteland 2, League of Legends, and even Overwatch. This leads me to believe that we probably have some of the best minds in the industry and that this game is in very good hands. I invite you all to take a look after this video and check out the team's part of their website, where they share some of their stories. They're pretty awesome. I'll provide a link in the description as well. Coming up at number 6 is probably my next most favorite feature, the artifact weapons. Now in this game, a lot more exists than just weapons in terms of artifacts. We also have not just weapons, but equipment and mounts. These items give you godlike abilities, and especially because the game's primary focus in terms of combat is based on ranged. Yep, that's right, we won't be seeing a lot of melee weapons. Some of these artifact weapons really generate some fun for the game. And we've already seen a couple of them already. One that I know most of us will thoroughly enjoy and probably recognize is the lightning hammer. Followed by the boots of Apollo.
You can't touch this.
And to add icing onto the cake, we've got something for the marksman, resembling the Epirus bow. Now, to give you a full description on these artifacts, not only will those who contribute to the success of their faction's victory be rewarded, but those with the lust for power will also have untold treasures to find. In the frozen eternal waste, you'll be able to explore and unlock powerful artifacts that immensely increase your power, from weapons like a hammer that can call down the power of the lightning from the skies above, to boots that let you run as fast as Sonic. But make sure to bring a winter coat before making a long journey to the wastes. In addition to limited visibility due to a raging blizzard, you will also need the means to keep warm or risk freezing to death. Not to mention that there's also survival mechanics, so you have to consider food and drink on top of that. And keep in mind that we only have access to one type of artifact per server, and they're lost on death. Number 7. Buy once and play forever. One of the best things to know about this game is you only need to purchase it once. No microtransactions, thank God, or subscriptions. Just war, and more war. A price point hasn't been decided yet for Rend though, but we'll probably be getting one in the upcoming weeks, probably before PreAlpha launches. Number 8. Faction-driven economy. So in a game where your faction is your family, obviously everyone will need to work together if you want to succeed. Every single person is going to be important in this game, whether they're a lumberjack, miner, crafter, or even hunter. Everyone's going to matter, and the economy will be entirely based around your faction. So make sure to communicate amongst yourselves if you need something only another can provide. And please don't forget to defend your gatherers, because those guys and gals always matter. The base may be temporarily protected, but the need to expand outwards for what you need is always a guarantee in a sandbox, no matter what it is. And a happy harvester makes for a happy faction. Number 9. server resets. Now, generally, this type of thing isn't a plus in most games because a lot of people don't like the fact that the servers get reset. But in this particular case, the game does give you incentives so that you won't be left with absolutely nothing by the time the next game begins. Now, your experiences with Rend will always be kept fresh due to these. No experience will ever be the same. You'll never be built up to the point where there's nothing left to do, which can happen in a lot of other sandboxes. Instead, you will always be fighting. You'll always be building to something greater. And you and your faction will still be rewarded for your hard work via meta progression points. And something to note on this feature, because it did spark a little bit of discomfort, is that it's pretty much the same concept as if you would play a MOBA or a shooter. Like, let's take Battlefield 1 or Heroes of the Storm or League of Legends. Why do you exactly play those games, you would think to yourself? No game is ever the same. Your progression doesn't stick. But what does stick? Your skill for one, your enjoyment, if you actually won the game, and your ranking, most importantly, which also can be considered a form of meta progression. So for this game, it'll be the same thing. Even though we'll be starting all over again once the factions get wiped off the map, there will still be incentives in place that we can purchase via meta progression points to consider the experience worth it. On top of that, if you aren't always able to log in or play the game like I know I'm not, there will be systems in place to assist with this, and to keep you up to date on when the reckoning will commence, like I mentioned earlier. Not to mention, the way you play completely depends on your preference. If you wish to log in one day and gather materials to aid in your faction's fight, you are free to do so. Or even play with some friends and hunt down enemy faction members to collect spirit points, which are stored in your faction's home base, that gigantic tree you must have saw a couple of times by now, to further progress towards victory. Number 10, probably the most important feature, action combat. So this game is being developed in the Unreal Engine, version 4.14, which we do have quite a bit of experience with if you've followed any of the sandboxes that have come out in the past few months. Most notably Conan Exiles, and this game features a form of fully fledged, no tap targeting action combat, which you absolutely can't go wrong with, thank God. And from what we've seen so far in these videos, it actually looks really fluid and very entertaining. And something to note for all you melee lovers like myself out there, this game will primarily be focused on ranged. If you want to have a melee weapon, your best bet is going to be the artifact weapons, because those are the only melee weapons that we know of right now in the game. Which is completely fine, because earlier today actually I've been thinking this game is actually very similar to a game called Nosgoth that came out a few years ago on Steam, and it was actually a really good experience. It essentially had the same concept. Most of the characters on the human side were ranged, and the vampire side had the melee. But that didn't stop people from enjoying the game on the human side. In fact, I think people enjoyed it a lot more than on the vampire side, which is why I'm totally pumped for this experience. Because shooters are awesome. They're super popular, and I mean, you really can't go wrong with the shooter if you're looking for some enjoyment, or just for something to kill time on. And putting shooter elements into a survival sandbox, now that is something interesting to look at. So let's hope for the best in terms of optimization and server stability, and that PreAlpha actually comes sooner rather than later so we can get our hands on this thing and try it out. There's still a lot to learn about Rend. There's so much, in fact, and we've only scratched the surface with this game. I mean, it's only been out for like 4 days now, but we know quite a lot about it already. The developers are very, very transparent, which is amazing. And they do scour the Discord, which I do recommend that you join and support, because any questions you may have about the game, they are there to answer like all day long. And the Reddit too, because the Reddit definitely needs some love. So I'll leave links to both of those in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you'll support the game, and I hope it's opened your eyes and made you interested about this survival sandbox as much as I am, hopefully. And lastly, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. And I'd also like to thank Jake Sim, who posted the Q&A on the Rend Discord, where I got the majority of my information, in fact, and is open to the public. And last but not least, I'd like to thank the development team of Rend, who answered any and all questions I had about the game on the Discord, and the MMORPG community that left feedback on the article I posted regarding the 10 reasons to be excited for Rend. And once again, I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. Please be sure to leave your likes, comments, and even dislikes down below. Any feedback is good feedback. And I'll see you next time, folks. Roke out.